Beirut, January 1979. The city lives its usual life. On the noisy streets, people hurry about, cars honk in traffic, and children play in the courtyards. Everything seems ordinary. On the balcony of one of the buildings sits a young Englishwoman. She feeds stray cats and paints urban landscapes. To her neighbors, she is nothing more than an eccentric artist. Beneath her window, a red Volkswagen is parked. No one pays any attention to it. But on this very day, a motorcade passes right beside it, carrying the man Israel called Enemy Number One, Ali Hassan Salameh. At that time, Salameh was not just a Palestinian leader. He was the Red Prince, the chief architect of the horrific terrorist attack at the Munich Olympics in 1972. It was then that the militants of Black September seized the Israeli Olympic team. 11 athletes were killed, and all of it happened under his command. Israel swore revenge. A secret operation, Wrath of God, began, a hunt for every person connected to the Munich massacre. But for years, Salameh slipped away like a shadow. And then, on January 22, 1979, he finally paid with his life for his crime. As his motorcade approached the Volkswagen, a powerful explosion erupted. In an instant, the bustling street turned into a nightmare. No one could have imagined that the quiet Englishwoman on the balcony was not just an artist. Her name was Erika Chambers, and she was a secret Mossad agent. But what role did this woman truly play in the operation? How did she manage to eliminate one of the most dangerous terrorists a man Israel had hunted for so many years? In this video, you will discover the full story of the mysterious Erika Chambers, the woman who, on that day, stood on a balcony and accomplished what even the most experienced Mossad operatives had failed to achieve. To the neighbors on Verdun Street, she was just a quiet Englishwoman, a little eccentric perhaps, but harmless. They knew her as Penelope. She loved feeding stray cats and could spend hours on her balcony with brushes and paints, capturing the city's views on canvas. No one could have imagined that her life concealed any sort of secret. But that day, immediately after the terrible explosion, Penelope suddenly began packing. She asked her neighbors to look after the cats, left them extra food, and said she was going away on a short vacation to recover from the shock of what had happened. It seemed like a natural reaction to the horror that had just unfolded beneath her window. Yet Penelope never returned. She seemed to vanish into thin air. No one ever saw her again. When, sometime later, people entered her apartment, they found a British passport. And then the truth became clear. The mysterious Penelope was not who she claimed to be. Her real name was Erika Chambers, a Mossad agent recruited for one single mission. Astonishingly, for this operation, she didn't even need a false identity. She worked under her real name with her real passport. And that made her cover all the more convincing. How did it happen that an ordinary young woman from London found herself at the center of one of the most notorious assassinations of the century? They called her Penelope, but behind that name lay a very different story. The real name of this mysterious woman was Erika Maria Chambers. She was born and raised in London in a family that never knew hardship. Her father, Marcus Chambers, was a man of fame, a racing driver, winner of the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans, and a successful motorsport manager. His roots went back to an old English family. His father had been an admiral in the Royal Navy. Her mother, Lona née Gross, came from a wealthy Jewish family in Czechoslovakia. Almost all of her relatives were murdered in Nazi concentration camps. Lona herself escaped to Britain during the war. Erika grew up in luxury in Holland Park, West London, alongside her older brother, Nicholas. She enjoyed a prestigious private school education, a comfortable life, and an upbringing that instilled proper respect for English. Everything seemed calm, but the family broke apart while the children were still young. Erika stayed with her mother. At the University of Southampton, she studied geography. Her professors remembered her as a dedicated but also reckless student. She owned a small red Mini Cooper and loved to race through the city streets at a speed that made hair fly and hearts pound. In her, there was a thirst for risk, the very quality that later drew the attention of Mossad. After university, Erika traveled briefly to Australia, but didn't stay long. Soon she arrived in Israel to continue her studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. It was the very time when the world was shaken by the tragedy of the Munich Olympics. 11 Israeli athletes had been murdered by the Black September group, and at that very moment, Mossad was searching for new recruits. Erika was the perfect candidate. She spoke fluent German, a gift from her mother, raised in Central Europe. She didn't look Jewish, which was a crucial advantage. To Mossad, she was clean, as their officers would say. No one would ever suspect this girl of being an Israeli agent. But the decisive factor was her personal history. She was shown documents about her family, murdered in Nazi gas chambers. For Erika, it was a shock and a turning point. It was then that she agreed to work for Israeli intelligence. Her long preparation began, years of intensive training, legends, and practice in behavior. In 1975, she was sent to Germany, where she lived for 3 years as a sleeper agent. This was part of a clever plan. First, her time in Germany distanced her from Israel. Second, if Salameh's assassination were carried out, it might appear as if German security services were behind it, not Mossad. By the end of 1978, Erika received a visa from the Lebanese embassy in Bonn. Under the name Penelope, she traveled to Beirut. There, she rented an apartment overlooking Rue Verdun, just a short distance from the home of Ali Hassan Salameh. To the neighbors, she was a strange yet kind foreigner, a painter with an endless number of cats, speaking of charity and Palestinian children. But in truth, she was a woman who was closing in on her single target. Erika Chambers had been activated. From that moment on, her life followed a path from which there was no turning back. But did she realize then that by accepting this mission, she condemned herself to a life in the shadows? A life without a name, without a family, without the right to ever return home? Ali Hassan Salameh. To the Palestinians, he was a hero and a symbol of resistance. To Israel, he was enemy number one, a man around whom politics and war, high society and terrorism seemed to revolve. They called him the Red Prince. He wasn't just a commander of Black September. He was Yasser Arafat's closest ally, his favorite, and perhaps even his heir apparent. Young, charismatic, and tall, he always dressed in expensive suits and silk shirts, dazzling those around him with confidence and glamour. In Beirut, he was a cult figure, a playboy, accustomed to nightlife, sports clubs, restaurants, and the company of the most beautiful women. His second wife was Georgina Risk, a beauty queen who was crowned Miss Universe. The newspapers wrote about him as if he were a celebrity. The crowds adored him. But behind this mask was another face. Salameh was the chief architect of the Munich massacre. In 1972, before the eyes of the world, Black September militants took Israeli athletes hostage. 11 of them were murdered. The tragedy shocked the globe. For Israel, it became personal. From that moment, Salameh was a marked man. Prime Minister Golda Meir gave the order. Everyone who was involved in Munich must be found and eliminated. Thus began the secret operation known as Wrath of God. And Ali Hassan Salameh was its most difficult target. For years, Mossad hunted him. One plan after another was devised. False leads, a network of agents, constant surveillance. But every time, the Red Prince slipped away. He traveled with a small army of bodyguards, almost never moved without a convoy, and constantly changed his routes and residences, as if he could sense he was being watched. He was protected not only by armed men, but by his political status, too close to Arafat, too important to be taken down without immense risk. At one point, even one of Mossad's most legendary agents, Sylvia Raphael, was brought in. A seasoned operative with years of undercover work behind her, an extensive network of contacts, and an extraordinary record. The team believed that if anyone could get close to Salameh, it would be her. However, even that mission ultimately failed. And as we mentioned in one of our previous videos, which you can find linked here, Israel once again came away empty-handed. Meanwhile, Salameh continued to lead a double life. By day, the gym and political meetings. By night, parties and banquets. A playboy in silk shirts, perfectly at ease with the blood-stained role of a terrorist mastermind. For Mossad, he was more than just a target. His elimination became a matter of honor. But time dragged on. The years of pursuit seemed endless. And if the best of the best, even Sylvia Raphael, had failed to bring down the Red Prince, then who possibly could? And then, unexpectedly, a young Englishwoman stepped into the picture. A painter, a lover of stray cats, with no history of covert operations. A woman who had never killed before. Could it really be that she, of all people, succeeded where Mossad's most experienced operatives had failed? In the summer of 1978, the Mossad entered a decisive phase. The operation was given the code name Mavir, meaning burner. It was overseen by the legendary officer Mike Harari. Supporting the mission was a Lebanese agent working for Israeli military intelligence who provided invaluable details of Ali Hassan Salameh's daily routine, when he left his home, when he visited his wife, where he stopped on his way, and how his bodyguards behaved. Mossad then began deploying cover teams into Beirut. Their task was to melt into the city and track the Red Prince without him ever sensing a shadow of danger. One operative was tasked with joining the gym that Salameh frequented several times a week. This was how Agent D entered the story. He lived under an assumed identity, moving between Beirut and Damascus, with his base at the Beirut International Hotel. His main mission was to train alongside the target and record every movement. His instructions were crystal clear. Keep your distance, no conversations, no eye contact. A single mistake could cost him his life. But it was Salameh who broke the distance. After several months, one day Agent D noticed that Salameh had taken an interest in his exercises, correcting him as though giving advice. This casual remark led to small talk and, over time, to regular encounters. Salameh suggested they train together, and from then on, a strange friendship began, one in which the observer and the target stood dangerously close. For Mossad handlers in Israel, this was alarming. Any unnecessary bond meant a deadly risk, yet refusing contact would have aroused suspicion. Under the circumstances, D was allowed to maintain the relationship, though every encounter now carried a razor's edge of danger. Salameh turned out to be intelligent, strong, and deeply charismatic. Years later, after completing his mission, Agent D gave a rare interview to an Israeli television station. He admitted openly, he was smart, a strong man, a man's man. We had a lot in common. I don't deny it. I liked him. But in the same breath, he made the line clear, but he killed 11 athletes in Munich before the entire world. For that, he deserved to die. I had no doubt. He could be the nicest man in the world. So what? Gradually, Salameh allowed his new acquaintance closer. He introduced him to his wife, Georgina Risk, the former Miss Universe. He showed him his home, its layout, and even his personal belongings. Every detail, of course, was passed by Agent D directly to his handlers. Over the following months, Salameh invited him to more gatherings, showered him with gifts, brought him along to parties, and even tried to set him up with his wife's sister. Step by step, a bond of trust was formed, but one that was being mined for intelligence at every turn. Meanwhile, Agent D never forgot his true mission. His task was to find the weak spots, the opportunities where an assassination could finally succeed. By the fall of 1978, he began presenting possible scenarios. By then, as many as 14 Mossad operatives were active in Beirut. Among them was Erika Chambers, living under the alias Penelope. To outsiders, she was an employee of an NGO helping Palestinian children. She rented an apartment with a perfect view of Salameh's daily route. 2 more agents entered Lebanon undercover using British and Canadian passports. For 6 weeks, Salameh was under relentless surveillance. Every step was logged. The agents discovered that nearly every afternoon he visited Georgina at her apartment in Snubra, West Beirut. When he had no meetings, he would spend time at the gym or sauna. A plan to kill him at the sauna was drawn up, but vetoed because of the inevitable civilian casualties. So Mossad shifted to a new decision, to kill the Red Prince with a car bomb. Explosives would be hidden in the trunk of a Volkswagen, parked on the very street where his convoy was forced to pass each day. The angles, the turns, the flow of traffic, the bodyguards' habits, everything was calculated down to the second. Agent D confirmed the route and passed on the final observations. The point was chosen. The trap was ready. And yet one question remained. Who would take on the decisive role? Who would be in the right place, with a clear line of sight, steady enough to press the button at the exact second Salameh's Chevrolet rolled past the Volkswagen? The answer lay above on the 8th floor, on the balcony where a quiet painter fed stray cats. That was where the final scene of the operation would unfold. What role would Erika Chambers play, and why was she chosen to deliver the final deadly strike? January 22, 1979. Beirut was living its ordinary life. On Verdun Street, passers-by hurried along, cars honked impatiently in traffic, and from the shops drifted the smell of fresh coffee and spices. Yet here, one of Mossad's most dramatic operations was about to reach its end. At the curb stood a red Volkswagen. To random pedestrians, it was just another car. To Israeli intelligence, it was a carefully prepared trap. In its trunk lay 100 kilograms of explosives, concealed so well that no one could notice. On the 8th floor of the building across the street, on her balcony, sat a young Englishwoman known to her neighbors as Penelope. With a canvas and brushes, she seemed to be painting. But in truth, she was the person entrusted with the final step of the mission. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, a convoy of 2 Chevrolets left the apartment of Georgina Risk. Inside one of the cars was Ali Hassan Salameh, nicknamed the Red Prince. He was on his way to his mother's birthday celebration. At 3:35 p.m., the vehicles approached the Volkswagen and turned onto Rue Madame Curie. At that moment, a powerful explosion ripped through the street. In an instant, the lively rhythm of Beirut was replaced by chaos. Salameh's convoy was destroyed. All 4 of his bodyguards were killed. 4 bystanders also lost their lives, among them a German nun and a British secretary. 16 others were injured. Salameh himself survived the initial blast. Badly wounded, he was rushed to the American University Hospital of Beirut. Doctors fought to save him, but minutes later, at 4:03 p.m., his death was declared. Who exactly pressed the button is still a matter of debate. Some claim Erika Chambers merely signaled another operative. However, most researchers believe that it was she herself from the balcony of her apartment who activated the device at the decisive moment. This was her only mission, and she carried it out flawlessly. The operations commander, Mike Harari, observed everything from the deck of an Israeli missile boat off the coast. Through a telescope, he saw the flash and knew the long hunt was finally over. Meanwhile, the team was already leaving the city. Erika Chambers, along with 2 other agents, reached the shore where a boat was waiting. Soon they were aboard the vessel, vanishing from Lebanon as suddenly as they had appeared. Thus ended the story of Israel's most wanted enemy. Ali Hassan Salameh, the man behind the Munich massacre, was eliminated. And Erika Chambers, the Englishwoman who became Mossad's secret weapon, disappeared from sight, leaving behind only a legend. But what happened to her afterward? And why did her life dissolve into mystery, hidden behind a veil of silence? The funeral of Ali Hassan Salameh shook the city of Beirut. More than 100,000 people poured into the streets to bid farewell to the Red Prince. The crowds wept, chanted slogans, and mourned as if a national hero had fallen. Yasser Arafat himself carried the coffin alongside his comrades and uttered a short but piercing phrase, "We have lost a lion." He ordered those responsible for the killing to be hunted down. But by then, it was already too late. The Mossad agents had left Lebanon. The escape plan had been crafted down to the smallest detail. While the PLO was only beginning to realize the role played by the mysterious Penelope, she was already on her way to the port of Junye, from where an Israeli gunboat spirited her away. In her apartment, she left behind a British passport, a clue that sparked a mystery that lingers to this day. For a long time, it was assumed that Erika Chambers' identity was nothing more than a Mossad creation. After all, her partner, who acted under the name Peter Scriver, was later revealed to have never existed. Could the same be true of Erika? The facts suggest otherwise. Renowned Israeli author Aaron J. Klein, who documented Israel's response to the Munich tragedy in his book Striking Back, wrote, "Erika Chambers was a nice British lady who even used her own passport. She was an ad hoc operative recruited for a specific mission. She was used and no longer needed after the operation. A common procedure." German Mossad expert Wilhelm Dietl also confirmed her identity. In the early 1990s, he met with Erika's father in the United Kingdom. Their relationship had been strained, but the man admitted that from time to time he received Christmas cards with Israeli stamps. This meant only one thing: his daughter was alive, though all contact was limited to these rare hints. According to Dietl, however, she did maintain ties with her brother. That brother was Nicholas Mordaunt Chambers. An Oxford graduate, he became a Queen's Counsel in 1985 and later a respected civil court judge, a pillar of the British legal establishment. Journalists eventually approached him, hoping to confirm whether his sister was indeed the Mossad agent in question. When asked directly if Erika Maria Chambers was his sister, Nicholas replied evasively, "You are pursuing, from your own point of view, a very proper line of inquiry, but you will understand that it's not something I can help you with." The reporter pressed, You appear to be her brother, and I am intrigued to know if that is accurate, and what has happened to your sister." Nicholas answered with a laugh. "The answer is, you probably are intrigued." Then he added, "It's probably really best I don't say anything." When contacted a second time, he simply remarked, "I hope that time has moved on." His response was as enigmatic as Erika's story itself. But in the world inhabited by Penelope, the world of international espionage, Mossad-trained hit squads, and a lifetime of glances over one's shoulder, what else could one expect? The name of Erika Chambers has since become a myth. For her neighbors in Beirut, she will forever be remembered as the quiet Englishwoman with the cats. For Israel, she was the woman who brought an end to a years-long hunt. And for the rest of the world, she is an elusive phantom, the legend of the first British woman in Mossad. Who was Erika really? A spy, a heroine, or just a pawn in someone else's game? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. Thank you for watching.